The third video in the conventions lessons that I want to do with you for the synthesis essay. And just briefly, I want to remind you of a feature that some of you probably already use regularly in your everyday computer skills. But if you've never done this before, then I hope that this changes your life by using a little bit less time for you to edit those things that you need to find quickly that you know you do over and over and over again. So I just want to remind you that the find feature in both Word and in any web browser that you use, including any web browser that you use to open up Google Docs, is going to be a real benefit to you in helping you find the things that you know you do wrong all the time. So you basically just need to get into the edit menu, right? And so the edit menu in this Word document is right here. And when we open up that edit menu, we can come here and we can go to find. Generally what happens is that it pops it up usually at the bottom, though I'm wondering, yep, you already have that feature, some of you, in the Word document itself up here. This is actually where you would type it in and find things. Otherwise, if you were in a Google Doc, and let me just pull one randomly up here. You can also do the same thing, either from the Firefox menu, where you can actually find it in any web page, or if you're literally in a Google document, you can do the same thing. What's nice is it's always under Edit. So you go to Edit, you go to Find, and you'll notice there that it has Find and Replace. So you can choose to just find words that you commonly mixed up, or you can choose to find them and replace them, or you could choose to just find them, so then you make your own choices about whether or not you need to replace. And that's probably the best thing for you to do. So I'm going to practice it two ways here, going back into the Word document that I made. So I just went ahead and scanned some paragraphs off of the New York Times that I knew talked about the Founding Fathers, and also that had an example, or I could make an example of the thing that we just talked about with contractions. So we'll go ahead and start with the contractions first, just to show you simply what it is. So if you know that you occasionally will accidentally say would of or could of instead of would have or could have, because remember we talked about that in the last video, then all you have to do is search for it up here. So you've got would have, could have, should have. So let's just try would have and see if it finds it. Oh, look, I have a would have problem here. So all I would do then was get into my document and change that to have, okay? So if you know that you have a problem, you could really easily cycle through all three of those expressions and see if it pops up anywhere. That one, it doesn't look like we're finding any. Would have, could have, should have. No problems there either. So as long as I recognize that, I use the find feature, I can eliminate that problem, not even a big deal. So for any of the words that you commonly misspell, then or than, effect, affect, if you want to identify them individually, then you can just type that word in here, see if it comes up in your essay, and if it does, evaluate what's going on. The other one that I want you to think about specifically for this paper is how we recognize the idea of the Founding Fathers. So I'm going to go ahead and have you click on this link here. This is a link to a dictionary that I think does a nice job of identifying the capitalization that I want all of you to think about. So a lot of you are mentioning the Founding Fathers in your paper, and that's an expression that could be a common noun, right? A countable common noun here. Like in this example, the founding father of an institution, organization, or idea is the person who sets it up or first develops it. That's the concept of a founding father. But when you guys are talking specifically about the founding fathers with an S, this is now a plural proper noun. Proper nouns must be capitalized because they identify a very specific group. Just like the word Confederate also needs to be capitalized when you guys are talking about the Civil War. So Founding Fathers and Confederate are two things that I want you to watch out for in your conventions, and I want you to do it really easily by simply using the find feature. So I'm going to go ahead here, and I'm just going to type in Founding Fathers and see if I've got it. Oh, I do. And I notice that it's not capitalized at all, and I want to make sure that that makes sense in the context of the sentence. Ellis was a major figure in the new school of Founding Fathers historians that emerged in the 1990s. It must be talking about this group, because later on down here it talks about Washington, Hamilton, and the Addams family. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to capitalize that F and that F, because I know that I want to have those two as a proper noun. You could do the same thing. I know I don't have the word Confederate in this document, but you could easily put the word Confederate in there. And you could even do small c, and then see if anything comes up. And then recognize if you do need to change it, if you know that you have not used the word Confederate in its common noun sense, which means like buddy or friend, then you can put it in and you can do find and replace. So here you can pick find and replace there, where you can just tell it, hey, if you find the word Confederate, just replace it with Confederate capitalized, and then it'll do all of it for you if it finds any. And in this case, it didn't. And I think you can do the same thing in Google. I'm going to get into the Google document again. That has nothing to do with it, and clearly nothing to do with Confederates. But clearly, if I wanted to put in the word Confederate here with a small c, I could then replace it with Confederate capital C. I think Founding Fathers, you might need to think about it every time, but my guess is most of you, when you use the word Confederate in this paper, you're probably going to mean the Civil War. So it would need to be capitalized. So hopefully this find feature just reminds you how easy it can be to monitor your own editing when you're just aware of what your own habits are. So if you have a bad habit with semicolons, you could also type in semicolon and see where it comes up, and then just make sure every single time you're using a semicolon that you're using it correctly. So there's all sorts of handy things that you can do with the find and replace feature if you're smart about it.